Okay, I got the bodywork started on the door. Put one stud in each dent, pulled out just a little bit, tapped the ridges down and where the hem flange was, where it folded around. I put one coat of fiberglass filler over each spot, blocked that out flat, and I've got regular filler over the top. That should be all I need. May have to fill in some pinholes here or there, but it's essentially done. I'll block it out in a little while when it's hard. I'll just put that on. I've moved on to the bumper. The only problem with the bumper is the end of it is chewed. Right in here, I'm going to have to cut that off with just with a razor knife. I'm going to cut that bad piece off. And I've got all the paint sanded off where it was splintered. Paint was cracked all along the top. So I'll have primer out to somewhere in here. And I'll probably just have to, I'm trying to not paint into this grill. This is kind of a pain to sand. What I may end up having to do is just tape along somewhere in here around it. And I'm just going to scuff as much as I can all around here and just do a blend just along the front and the bottom lip just a little bit. He's wanting to save money on this, so that's one way to do it. When you get this cut off and get it scuffed enough where I can spray some adhesion promoter on it and put some plastic filler in the corner, and that'll be done. So I'm gonna try to prime this spot and that spot there on the door. It's really the only places I need primer. I'm gonna put some of the epoxy down first and put some on here where I cut some rivets out just to coat that. I'll spray what I have left on the inside of the fender and on this bracket. Be back when I get ready to spray the epoxy. Alright, ready for epoxy, and then about 3 coats of urethane. I'm going to mask off under here. Just drop a piece of paper this way and one back here, and then fold one over the bodywork, fold it back, and go. You can see where I've got it sanded, where it's lighter here. I've got it sanded with 400 grit all the way back through here. That'll get epoxy and urethane primer. I've got the bumper ready to go too. Just did this by hand. I ran a block. So let me get this to focus. Ran a block across the top to get the top edge flat, and then just did all this by hand. That's the 5887 3M plastic repair. I still need to sand this back right here with some 400 to get the feather edge of the primer to lay down in this. You can see how it's still glossy. I got to bring this down 2 or 3 more inches. I'll be back when I'm spraying the primer. Alright, I'm going to give this one quick coat of epoxy. Just over the bare steel and the bodywork. That's all it needs. I'm going to take what I got left in the cup here and do my area over there on the fender bracket. Do that spot, at least brush it on where I need it, and try to pour some down in the welds. Okay, right now I'm just going to brush on some epoxy onto the welds and inside those holes I drilled in the bracket, just to get those coated so they don't rust. And I'm actually going to spray some on the outside when I get done, and then come back and pour what I got left down inside the welds. I'm going to let that set up for a little while and come back and recoat it. Then I'll spray some over it right before I do the white. Alright, I'm going to pour some in now. That way after it runs through I can wipe it down. Spray some for the last coat so it don't have any streaks in it. That'll encapsulate that weld behind there. Also, those two back there and these two. And that should be good. Let it run down through here. I've got the car at an angle. Enough of an angle it ought to run. Alright, I'll let that run out for a while, let it quit dripping, then I'll wipe it all off where it's still visible, and then spray one coat over the rest of it. Okay, it's been running through for a few minutes. You can see it's run all the way around that way, and actually come out of the back a little bit. It's just pooled all around the welds. I'm going to come through here with lacquer thinner and a rag and just wipe everything off so you can get a nice final coat on it. I'll be back when I get ready for the primer. Alright, I'm ready for the urethane primer. I'll show you the first coat. The other two will be exactly the same, so I'll just show you one. I'm going to go through the outside in method. I'm going to go almost all the way to my paper on the first coat. Step the second coat in slightly below that, and the third coat will just be over the bodywork. Alright, I'll get two more in a little while. Let that sit about 10 to 15 minutes between coats. I'll be back when it's done. Alright, while I've got the spray gun out, I just cleaned the primer out of it. Primer's done. I'm going to spray some white on the fender to get it trimmed out because I'm going to paint this on the car with the door. And I'm also going to spray some paint over there on that bracket that I welded into the car. So I've got all the internal white done. I can just spray the outside of the car later and be finished. I'll need about a half ounce more white. I'm going to get a little bit more and finish up. Alright, moving on to the fender bracket. Once I get done with the white, I'll come back. There's undercoating back behind there. I'm going to get a little white onto that. But once I get done with this white, I'll come back over and overlap this with a little undercoating to make it look original. Alright, here it is. Just kind of misted it into what was there, up into this way, and then this right here is where the undercoating was. So I got a little bit on there, but I wanted to make sure I got it at least past, up to the edge or past it, and I'll come back with the undercoating, and I'll just finish this off. Spray it a little bit over my white that's there now. Get this in here done. I brushed on the sealer on those 3 welds, and then I've sprayed a little more in the whole area just to get it even. And now that white's been blended in just like I did on the fender bracket. I got to spray some guide coat on that primer there and this right here so that I can block it out and make sure I got it all sanded. But that's essentially done. I'm going to go clean the gun out now. I'll be back when I got the fender back on the car. Okay, get the fender back on. Let it dry for about 10 or 15 minutes. Lines up okay. I mean, it's the best I'm going to be able to do with this aftermarket fender. Got it bolted in here. It's used the original bolts and put nuts behind it. Here's the door gap. Looks pretty good for the part I've got. Here's my undercoating. I just sprayed a little bit right on that edge and came all the way up just to give it a nice new edge to look like it had not been done. Not that anybody's ever going to see it or care, but at least I'll know it's right. I'm going to get this scuff down, block that out, and I got to get the handle and try to get the trim off the door. Then I'll be able to paint this stuff. And here's the bumper. Once I get the bumper and these 2 panels painted, I'll stick the bumper back on it in the headlight and a piece of rocker trim, and this thing will be done. Alright, door handles out, mirrors off. That took about an hour just to get all this stuff off. Once you get the panel off, there's some really ridiculous clips right there and there. I actually had to go in from underneath with a screwdriver and release those. You're supposed to be able to slide the door panel up off those clips, but I could not get it to come off. There's a wiring connector here. This actually slides up and off. There's probably 7 or 8, or maybe even 10 of these little white clips where you push the center of it in, then pop it out. So I can focus on that. You push the center of it in, and then it'll release. Then this whole panel comes off. There's a trim piece that covers all this in here. This piece right here covers the sail panel and goes all the way around the door. Got the handle out, released it at the bottom for the handle link, and then the link for the lock right there, just popped it out. I had to pull all this wiring out with it for the lock switch. Finally got the handle out. I'm down to getting the belt molding off and this piece right here that goes around the top. This is overlapped. The belt molding's overlapped over it down here, so I'm assuming it's got to come off first. I can see a screw there, a screw there, and I may just have to drop the glass and it may come out after that. I'm just gonna have to see. I've got the service manual, but it may not be in there. I'll double check it and see. Hopefully that'll help me out. It showed me how to get the panel off, but it's still a little difficult. I'll be back when I get the trim off. Okay, this is officially ridiculous. I got 3 screws out of the front here, there, and there. Peeled this back, it had just been stuck for a while. That's connected, all one piece, all the way across here. I've lifted it all the way up, as much as I can by hand. It's off the door. There are, let's see, 3 clips. There are 3 clips down inside there. You can see 1, 2, 3. And this piece is screwed right there. Can't really see if there's a screw holding this piece to this piece. And there's a piece of double-sided tape all the way down the door here. I'm going to run a knife through the back, all the way through and cut the tape. Then I'll have to pry the clips off, and that should get this whole piece off as an assembly. And that'll be it. Be back when I got that off, and I'll show you where everything was attached. Okay, it's off. It's off as one piece. Flip it over and show you what I found. There are, after you pull the run channel out, there's 5 or 6 screws that go inside the top of the door. You can see that piece there, that's screwed on. That's the pillar trim. This clip came off in the door. I'll have to get it and transfer it back over. It's screwed at the bottom to the belt molding. And there's those 3 here that go into behind the mirror. The mirror goes on top of all this. There's the double-sided tape that ran all the way down the outside. I'll just strip that back with a stripe-off wheel and put a new piece of tape on it. Probably would never matter, but I don't want any sort of wind noise or anything coming off. Really don't want to ever have to redo this, that's for sure. Here's all the holes inside the window channel you got to get the screws out of. I'm sure most people would tape this thing off just because it's so much trouble, but the way it overlaps the door by like an inch or 2 here, and it's so super hard I can't pull it back with trim tape. Wanted to make sure I didn't have any problems with it peeling, so I went ahead and took it off. That's got everything off the door that I'm going to take off. The molding I'm going to leave because it's bonded on with double-sided tape. I'm just going to clean it really well and get down in there maybe with a fiberglass pen or maybe a piece of 1000 grit back in here where I'm going to blend and just fold it and run it all behind the molding, get it nice and sanded. And that'll be just fine. And I'll do a blend. I'll cover the bottom with white sealer when I seal the fender. What I'll have to do is I'll have to mask the door off so I don't get white sealer in the front at the top. Mask the door off, put the white sealer on here, work my way down, and then pull the paper off, and then extend my sealer from the fender over to the door here on the last 2 or 3 coats, or 2 or 3 passes. So I'll only have white sealer covering that, and then I'll come over and I'll do base coat, same way, put some over just the bottom, cover the fender, and then I'll peel the paper back when I need to go in to do the blend into the door. But I'm not going to put the white base on with the fender. It's going to take too many coats to get it covered, and I only need 1 or maybe 2 at the back here or in the front of the door here to blend it. I'll show you that when I get ready to do it. I'm going to clean the door up now. I got to clean back behind here. I haven't washed the entire door at all, so I'm going to tape these holes up. The glass is actually down, so I really can't get any water in the door, so I'll just wash it like it is and get it prepped for a blend. I just need to sand the fender down and part of the bumper. We'll get ready to paint. Okay, I'm going to start blocking the door out. We got a piece of 400 wet and put it on the large Durablock. I'm just going to block around where the bodywork was. There's no real need to block anywhere else. I'm going to get that area flat, then I'll come back with a DA and a soft interface pad and sand everything else out and feather it into the original clear. Also got the door taped up so I don't cut through into the steel here. Since I've got it wet, I don't want to get this bare steel wet. Could have done this before I mounted the fender, but I wanted to go ahead and get it off the rack and get it out of my way, have it mounted and be done with it. see the guide coat still around the areas where I did the body work, here and here. I'm going to sand this till the guide coat's gone. And you don't want to mash down real hard because you'll actually conform to the surface. You want to just skip over the high spots and plane it down till it's gone. And you know it's flat. Alright, that's pretty close already. I'll be back when I'm done blocking and get ready to sand with the DA. Alright, I'm going to run the DA over with the soft interface pad with 400. I'm going to feather all these edges into that original clear, and I'll be ready to paint except for scuffing the rest of the door. This is why you only want one coat out here on the edges, so you can cut through it really fast and feather it back. You always want to sand lengthwise with the panel. Since this is straight that way, I'm going to sand that direction. If I sand up and down, I'm going to put waves in the panel. Not super critical here, but I always want to do the same thing every time on every panel. Just cut this back till the guide coat's gone. I'll be back when it's feathered. I just wiped down the fender with wax and grease remover again, just in case something's gotten on it since I hung it on there a couple days ago. That way I don't spread it around the panel when I go to sand it. I'm about to run 400 grit over it in all the large areas, and I'll come back with a red Scotch-Brite and sand off just the gloss in all the places I can't get the DA. Wax and grease remover is still drying in a few places right there. I think it's still wet, but I'm just going to blow it real quick with some air and dry it off and hit it with the DA. I'll be back when I've got that sanded down. Alright, I've got the fender sanded with 400 and also the bumper. Just a spot of primer I have on it. I've got 1000 grit on here now. I'm going to run over the bottom area of the door there with it, and then this whole top area. And I'll do everything else with the gray Scotch-Brite up the top, and then around these little pockets and around the molding and door handle and the edges. I'll show you a little bit of this, then I got to cut this off and charge the phone up. I'm going to pop the door ajar just enough to miss the back door with the sander. I'm moving pretty fast, and I'm avoiding all these edges so I don't cut through. It's really hard to see what you're doing on white. I'm just trying to knock the texture off. I don't know if you can see it or not. Let's see if it shows up. Right in here, probably can't tell that, but you may have to use a light reflection to see what you're doing, but I'm trying to just take all the gloss off. Right in there, it's not completely sanded. You probably see a little bit of the texture left in there. But all in here, I don't want to cut through this edge with the DA, so I'll come back after I get all this flat with the DA. I'll come back with the gray pad, go around this, get in these grooves, and go around the edges and in the molding. I'll go ahead and do what I can with the DA, and I'll be back when I get ready to do the Scotch-Brite. Alright, I'm going to go around all my edges and in the grooves along the body lines that I can't get with the DA. I'm going to use a red Scotch-Brite. Knock all the gloss off of that. That'll have the fender done. I also have to go in where I put white when I trimmed it out. I got to scuff those edges too so the paint will stick to it when I do the outside. I've got a piece of tape on the hood here so that I don't sand that edge. I hit it with the DA earlier. Got to protect these edges. Alright, I'll continue with that, going everywhere I couldn't get the DA, and I'll be back in a second. Alright, fender's completely done. Right in here in this area where I'm going to do the blend, I can actually do this with a red Scotch-Brite. I actually did run the DA across the door here. You just got to be really careful not to burn through the edge, but I went ahead and started that with the DA. I'm going to go ahead and scuff all the primer here I couldn't get with the DA along the edges, and then right on the front of the door, all in here and up this way with the red Scotch-Brite, and then the rest of it I'll do with the gray one. Okay, those two panels are ready to go. Just need to mask the car off. Now I've got some cut throughs to the steel, but the sealer I use can handle a cut through. I don't have to put anything else on that. It's not made for just open areas of bare metal, but it's okay for cut throughs. I've got red Scotch-Brite in this area where I couldn't get the DA and along this bottom edge, and the entire outside edge of the door is red Scotch-Brited because that's not going to show if it's got a little bit of a sand scratch in it on the edges. It'll just be better for adhesion that way. All this is 1000 grit DA, and all in here, everywhere else is gray Scotch-Brite. I also do red Scotch-Brite inside here because that's going to get covered up, and that'll ensure better adhesion there with the clear coat. And also down inside here, I think I did the red pad. Anywhere that's not going to get seen, I'll use a red pad just so I get better bite with the paint. I just blew it off. I'm going to wipe it down with wax and grease remover in case I touched it anywhere on this bare steel or got any water on it. I know I got a couple of drops here on the fender while I was spraying water over here and blowing it off. I blew some out of the door gap and got on there. I'm going to wipe it down really well and then move on to the bumper. I actually hit that with the DA earlier just to get it started. I've got this whole area up to right there where you can see the gloss, and down here hit with the DA, and I'll have to go around this pocket again with the red pad. I'm going to do some kind of a blend over here. I'm probably just going to go ahead and paint the grill maybe, but just go over to here and I'll blend in the paint this way since it's only about an inch wide there, and do a blend across the center where it's skinny again here. That way this whole area will be solid clear, and the only little bit of a blend right in there, or a spot repair there where I'll miss the clear in, and right there too. I think that'll be the best bet. There's no reason to really paint the whole thing. He's not really paying for that either.